Hey, hello, friends. It is your favorite Scrum Master here in Mbengam. And if I'm not your favorite Scrum Master yet, don't worry about it. I got you. Okay. So for today's conversation, we're going to focus on the first 4 weeks on the job, the fourth week on the job, right? So you've been through your week 1, week 2, week 3, and now we're week 4. Let's focus on how can you excel in this particular timing. Okay. So I will go ahead and share the screen like always. Remember that at this point, you'd have gotten a chance to observe and have some understanding as far as like what are some of the support you can give the team. You should be thinking about doing some type of workshop, right? For existing teams, it's very important for you to look at some of their gaps and think through, for example, working agreement can be a thing you do with them. Um, Writing, story writing, estimation, hierarchy in the backlog. How does a story get to be in the backlog, right? These are conversations and things that you can actually, definition of done, definition of ready. All of this can be things that you can help the team with, right? One. That's one tip there. Create a workshop. Just make sure that everybody is aligned, that there's a gap, right? And that's why you're creating this workshop to help close that gap. Number 2 is having a clear understanding as far as like how can we resolve conflict on the team, right? Because conflict will rise. But do we have a method in place for when conflict does come up, and how do we go about solving that, right? Um, I always use this example. If somebody was to do something in a family, if a brother or sister did something wrong to me, the first person I tell is not going to be my parents. It's going to be the person who did whatever they did to me, right? That's just a first, I guess, like way of going about dealing with that. It's like addressing the person, and if that doesn't happen, then I'll go ahead and talk to my parents about what just happened, right? So it's really important for you as a Scrum Master to be able to make sure you guys have processes in place as far as like how do you want to deal with conflict when it does arise, because it will happen, okay? And it's really important for you to be able to minimize, right? And conflict is good. It's not all bad. It happens so that we can find better ways to improve how we work together and collaborate. So just something for you to think about. You need to also be thinking about, right? Like how can I get this team to become high functioning, right? High performing team, so they can be able to produce results. So how are you going to think about ways you're going to start building trust, right? Making sure that there's constructive conflict, holding them accountable for the commitment that they said that they're going to do. Like, for example, if stories are always rolling over in the last couple of weeks that you've been there and you've noticed that, well, what is the next plan of action that you plan to have to make sure that they're not overcommitted, or if there's a gap in how they're writing the story, or maybe they should have first do an analysis or have a spike story to research to understand the scope of work before they take it in, right? Those are things that you can do to start thinking. Those are things you can think about and activities you can do to make sure that they get into the space that they need to be in. Accountability. I refer a lot to the working agreement whenever we have one, and to say, hey, in the working agreement, we said we wanted to meet at this time, but when the time comes, I don't see anybody going on here. Like, what's happening? Right? You really need to hold your team accountable, because if you don't hold them accountable, guess what? They'll just walk over the plan. If we set something in our action item to improve, and at this point, they're not buying it by it, you just need to highlight, hey team, we had mentioned in the meeting that we wanted to do X, Y, and Z. I'm noticing that that's not happening. Do we want to revisit that and talk through and see how we can improve that, right? So the reasons for you doing all of this, so that you can help them produce results at the end of the day, right? And you want to be able to help create an environment where they're self-organized, self-managing. So if you're not there, they'll be able to take care of themselves. Yes, I understand it seems like it's week 4, but sometimes Scrum Masters get into this role and asking permission. You need to ask for forgiveness, not permission, okay? So another big thing that you need to make sure at least the team have clarity, if you see gaps in that space, is to make sure you have roles and responsibility clarity. Because there are times where if teams don't have the clarity, they have this assumption of what a Scrum Master should be doing versus what the previous Scrum Master did, right? Or what their previous product owner did. So it's really important for you to make sure that there's clarity in exactly what is being done, because if there's lack of clarity, guess what? Who is going to carry that weight? You are going to carry that weight, because the team one will be overwhelmed, and people are going to feel like they're doing a lot more than what they should be doing. And yeah, so just make sure that you have a roles and responsibility conversation with the team, so that you all understand what that looks like. Another thing you guys need to consider is you should be asking yourself, how am I helping the product owner, right? These are the different places that you can definitely help the product owner in the conversations, and making sure that you guys are on the same page on what expectation is. So as far as like the vision, always checking with the product owner to see, are we still on track with what we said we wanted to do, right? With the scope change that might happen, okay, how is it going to impact our overall vision? Releases, what are the things that the team should be doing right now so we can get ready, right? Like the conversations that you should be having. How can I protect the team, or how can we protect the team to make sure that they're not being overwhelmed, burned out, right? If you're burned out, then clearly you will not be able to produce the best of the work, right? What are some of the improvements that we should be doing, or you think we should be doing as a team, to make sure that we're going to produce the value that we said we wanted to produce with the team, and at the same time have fun, right? How can me and you collaborate on the facilitation that's happening? How do you think it's happening now? How can we do better or differently, right? These are ways that, and you asking the question with will literally help your relationship with your product owner. You probably have gone on an interview where they're like, what's your relationship like with the product owner? Hello, you're welcome in advance. I got you. Okay. So those are the things that you can literally talk about in there. All right. Another thing that you need to do is to ensure that you set boundaries. I totally understand you're new in an organization and all eyes on you. People have this expectation that whenever the bark, you should be like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. That's not true. Okay. You need to set boundaries. If you're going to be out at 5 o'clock, you're out at 5 o'clock. You're not checking your emails. You're not checking anything. And this should be something that you enforce with your team members too. Because even when you hear in a meeting, a team member is like, yeah, I spent the weekend doing X, Y, and Z, make sure you call that out and said, hey, we appreciate that you did that, but that's not expectation. And we don't want to make sure that continues, because then it's going to not give us a clear picture on how much work we're taking in. If there's something that we need to do as a team to accommodate for things that you're doing outside of your working hours, let's have that conversation. So in you setting out your boundaries is going to help your team members set their boundaries. So it's so important for you, Scrum Master, to make sure that you're setting the boundaries that's appropriate for your team and for you to succeed and excel in this work. Because if you don't, you're going to be burned out, and it's really easy for you to do that. All right, so this is all I have for you guys today, right now. I hope this was helpful. The purpose of me sharing here, of course, is to ensure that you have the information so you can make the best decision that will work for you, your team, and of course, improve the way you collaborate with the organization and your product owner. All right, peace. Have a good one.